We wait for a couple of seconds to join the people join.
Yeah, I guess you can start, Stefan.
Yeah, so you start?
Yes.
You do that way. Well, good afternoon, and thanks all for coming to this webinar during your lunch. Because today we are going to talk about marketing mix modeling, which we have embedded at FrieslandCampina as part of our data-driven business model. But I'm first of all curious who has bought yogurt within the last week. And I think I can also add the poll over here. Let's see how that works. Start. If everything is all right, you can now enter your answer if you have bought yogurt, yes or no. Nice. Already some people answered yes. Yeah, some more responses. Good to see. Yeah, so probably almost everyone has bought yogurt. And I will stop this one. And then the next one is, do you already know marketing mix modeling? Yeah, of course, otherwise you wouldn't visit this webinar, of course, but still. Oh, some people who don't know it. Good to see. But I think you're probably not aware that with marketing mix modeling, we can determine the optimal price point of the yogurt that you have bought. And we all want to make the best business decisions out there, and therefore we need to collect data. But that is not where it stops. That is only where it starts. But if we link these data sets together, then we get multifaceted insights. And we use marketing mix modeling for that, to evaluate our past and to set ourselves up for the future. But let's first introduce ourselves. My name is Stefan Hulsbos, data analytics consultant at Digital Power. And next to me, in this case on the other side of the screen, we have Rui Conde, and he is the data analytics lead at FrieslandCampina. And we both have a background in civil engineering. So you could say, in our previous career, we were building bridges, and currently we are bridging the gap between data and business teams. Let's Rui first introduce us now to what FrieslandCampina is.
Yeah, thanks. And good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for joining this session. So before we start going to the topic itself, let's focus a little bit about on FrieslandCampina. So FrieslandCampina is a global corporation that operates in multiple markets and provides millions of consumers all around the world with valuable nutrition products itself. I guess depending on where you are watching us, you will have access to different product range and different brands. And what you can see on this screen is some of those brands that we sell across those markets itself. Steve, yeah, we need to do this. Yeah, exactly. So, but before we start with the journey about our data analytics itself and what we do around it and how to use marketing mix modeling in practice, let me tell you the story about Christopher Columbus. So, Christopher Columbus had one objective: coming from Spain to arrive to Asia, but instead he arrived to America. So it's a totally different place to be. And in essence, he had the right data, but he was not able to leverage it in the right way. So what we want to do within FrieslandCampina is to make sure that we use the right data so that we make the right decisions based on that data and don't create data misconceptions. For that part, we embrace in multiple different activities in achieve this data knowledge and data driven itself. Stefan, please, can you move to the next one? So what we see here is within FrieslandCampina, we are part of the global commercial analytics team. So we really try to make sure that we do the best with the data. And for that, we partner with Digital Power, where we have Stefan on.
And I am, of course, from Digital Power, and we are data consultant operational in the entire data domain. And for this specific case, we have leveraged our data science and analytics engineering capabilities to reach our common goal, and that is to understand consumer behavior. But before we dive into that, Rui and explain us the business that we want to solve.
Yeah, thanks. So in essence, is this. So we want to make a data-driven approach, and we want to understand consumer behavior. We have within FrieslandCampina multiple success stories, but also we have our own challenges. So this is one of the examples that you see. So over time, we have certain products with a drop of volume, and at the same time, drop on households that are buying our products. It's something that is to understand what is driving it. So it's really where we go to, okay, which data do we have access, and how we make access to that information, and how we leverage that to shape better our offerings for the future. Next one, yeah. So, and to enable to do so, we need to look at two different aspects. So one of them is what consumers do. And that is like you are going to your groceries and you create your shopping list. If you think about drinking yogurts, you will start putting, okay, I want to buy this unit. This is the where I want to buy it. This is the brand that I want to purchase it. You go to a store. If you find that product in the store, you will buy it. Otherwise, you go to other options that are available. That's in practice what consumers do. And that, of course, influences the sales that we see and we observe in our data. But there's also other aspect. That is what consumers feel and think. So in our model, we really try to understand both and combine both in the same story to really understand what consumers' behavior is all about. The feel and think is more abstract. So it's about what they really feel and think, as the name say itself. And in essence, it's like this. So when you are thinking about drinking yogurts, you are started popping up in your mind certain brands. And for those brands, some of them you want to buy them, others you don't want to buy them for certain reasons. So some of them are in your consideration set, others don't. And also some of them you are willing to pay a certain level and others don't. So that's in essence what consumers feel and think. So in our models, we really try to embrace both of them, and the knowledge that we have from these sources enable us to really understand the drivers for certain behaviors that we see in our sales itself. But of course, for this is the theory behind it. But now Stefan will explain you a little bit more in detail which kind of ingredients do we put to this puzzle itself.
Yeah, because now we know how we can understand consumer behavior. Let's then see how we can influence that consumer behavior. And let's then first start with the things we can influence as FrieslandCampina. And then probably the most obvious one is we can introduce new products into existing categories or into new categories. Think, for example, of launching a new flavor into an existing category where we are already playing in. But have you also thought of the importance of pack sizes to our business? Because on your morning commute, you probably want to use a smaller pack size than for your everyday breakfast, because then a multi-pack containing multiple servings is more convenient. But even if the most beautiful product out there, in case we don't sell it anywhere, we will sell nothing. And therefore we partner up with retailers. And think, for example, of the different target audience that we reach if we partner up with an Albert Heijn compared to a hard discounter, for example. But then coming back to the importance of pack sizes. If you want to own that occasion on the go, then you need to be selling on the go, where people are on the move. So then you need to be selling at the small stations, for example. But if you really want to own the everyday breakfast, then you need to be selling at the grocery stores where people do the weekly grocery shoppings. And then we have price, of course. And if we lower our price, then our volume will increase. That's what we know from general economics. But we can also launch promotions. And then we trigger people in a way of urgency that they have to buy now. But we can also do different kinds of promotions. Think, for example, of the differences of doing a 2+2 discount versus a 50% discount. If you do a 2+2 promotion, then people are going to buy more volume, but it is mainly driven by the existing customer base. And if you do a 50% discount, then people are tempted to try out our products, and hopefully they stick around and come back the week thereafter and buy it for the full price. But even if we have done these three very well, but we don't tell people, they won't know, right? And we are all familiar, I guess, with the leaflets that we receive from the grocery store, which tell us the latest promotions, which actions are running. But we as FrieslandCampina, we also do communication. And I think we have all heard the Sterker Start campaign that was live over the past months on different channels. And I don't know if you have specifically noticed this, but this one was targeted at the morning occasion because you have to start your day strong. These are the things that we can influence as FrieslandCampina, but our real performance is strongly related to what the competition does, and therefore we buy a data set containing the information of the competition. For example, the price points that they are having, the products that they are having, in which shops they are selling, the media spends that they are doing, and this really allows us to evaluate our performance in relation to the competition. But also the entire category is prone to events that happen in the market. Think, for example, of COVID. People really wanted to buy our products, but they simply couldn't visit stores as frequently as they would like to do. So this impacted the entire category. What do you think of weather? Also in the summer we are selling some cold chocomels, but believe me, when the temperature starts to drop below zero, we are selling way more chocomel. What you already see over here is that we have many factors how we can influence that consumer behavior. But we have only one pile of money which we can spend, and we need to spend that wisely. And there marketing mix modeling comes into play.
Thanks, Stefan. So, as you saw, there's multiple ingredients to the puzzle, and the puzzle that we are trying to solve is, of course, to understand the consumer drivers that impact our sales itself. So, what you see here is a sneak preview of our models. So, you have here, this is like a sales for over a period of 3 years' time. Every line is a positive contributor to sales. Everything below is a negative contributor to sales. What we see is that some of the factors can have a positive influence and then a negative. So there's some fluctuations on the drivers. What we see here is the first one that I want to emphasize is pricing. So what we saw is that over the first 2 years, the pricing was driving positive our sales. But at some point of time, they started impacting negatively our sales. So we really need to understand what is the driver behind this price change. It could be inflation, it could be a price gap towards a specific competition that is making that impact and consumers are making the switch. It could be that we went too high with the price level, so the volumes are under pressure because consumers are doing less volumes of our products. Can be a plenitude of reasons. But by applying these ingredients all together, we can understand how they are moving over time and based on that information shape better our future offerings itself. What we see here is also promotion. So we see here that there were two specific promotions that drive significantly our sales. But not every promotion is good in certain way to drive volume, and that's something that we will show you a little bit more in detail. But for now, what you can see is that it was positive and we had an uplift in sales in those specific points of time. Media, building on mental availability, awareness, and so on, it created benefits for this specific product that we are seeing on the screen. Of course, there's fluctuations that, of course, depends not only on our presence, but also competitive presence itself. So by knowing what is the impact that media has on us, we can then understand how to best react and shape our media approach for the future. And what we also see here is the competitive distribution also plays an impact on us. So there were a specific SKU from core competition that was creating a major negative impact. Over the last 2 years, we were able to kind of compensate the impact that SKU was driving to us. But now, if you see with also the negative price impact, then the competitive also took some benefits from it, and you see that sales impact, negative impact, now growing once again. So it's by understanding the impacts on physical availability, on mental availability, and overall, we can really try to understand how to best shape our future. And that's really what we do. So we look at Stefan, can you move to the next ones, please? So we of course, this is looking to the back data. As we saw, we had a business case that the sales were dropping. We also have a model that tells us a story of the key drivers, but that's of course all to the past. What this enables us is to shape our future approach. Of course, there's uncertainties, and we try to use those uncertainties and the knowledge that we have from past experience to mitigate those uncertainties. But that's really the trick that we do. We not only see the past, but we also try to really shape the future approach based on the information that we have at hand and prediction of what is to come in the future.
And now we know, of course, what we get out of marketing mix modeling. Now we want to know how it technically works. So the first thing that you need to do is the data collection part. So you're going to collect basically all the puzzle pieces that we have spoken about, so the data of ourselves as well as from the competition. Then we bundle everything into the so-called model data set. Then we spin up our Python notebook, and we have chosen to use Python in this case, but of course you can also use R, that doesn't matter. And then you are ready to go. Because in the next phase, you're going through the feature selection. And in this phase, you're going to evaluate which feature help to explain your sales volume. So you're going to evaluate all the features one by one if they help to explain your sales volume. And in case they pass the evaluation, then you include it in your model. And the total of features that have passed the evaluation, that's what makes up your model. And then the goodness of fit of your model is indicated by the R squared. And what you'll see over here is that 91% of the variance present in the real sales data is captured by our model. And then the benefit of doing a linear regression. What you see over here is that price and distribution has passed the evaluation. So these are included in the model, but promotions are not. And what we then see, so the benefit of doing linear regression then is that we can treat and isolate each variable independently. So for price, we can see that it negatively influences our sales. So the sign, the plus or minus sign, indicates the direction, and the value indicates the magnitude. And it's also logical, because if we raise our price, then our volume will go down. So therefore, we really like to do it in this way, that we can isolate the different features and also do a deep dive on that. So what do we end up with then? So we started with our target line. That is our real sales volume. With all the features included in our model, we can now make the predicted line. And based on the features included in the model, we can create the distribution chart over time. And now we know how the contribution chart is created. But then let's go back to Rui, how we use this into an integrated story.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. So what you see here is the initial business case that we were talking about, a quite simple one, but sales are dropping over a specific point of time. So let's imagine that this is a 3-year period. So what we do is we create the model, so we put all those ingredients, we mix all of that as Stefan was doing, and the model outcome comes. But after the model comes, we still need to go back and try to understand why the model is telling us this story. So what you see here is one of the examples. So what we do is we put the model below, and above you have the objective, and then between you have different swim lanes that allows us to explain what is happening to it. So let's focus on the pricing. What we see is that here in the middle we have the swim lane of pricing, and we have this vertical line. When we started, this vertical line is on the point of the sales volume start dropping. At the same time, if you see here below, we have the model outcome itself. So we see also that is when the price become negative. So if we see the swim lane of price index, what we see is that at specific point of time, we started increasing the price. And not only increasing the price, but at a faster rate than the core competition. By doing so, the impacts in our brand were much higher than for competition. And in that sense, we really started being affected by a drop on volumes itself. Of course, this is connected with the rules of elasticity itself, like, okay, price increases, impact on volumes. But the fact that we increase it at a higher rate, increases the gap towards competition, and two specific competitors created this impact to us. So by understanding this behavior and understanding where the influx point comes, we can really, this help us to shape the pricing strategy that we can do also in future approach. So that's why it's important to not only do the model, but also try to understand why the model reached to this. And based on that information, okay, what can we do with this information to shape ourselves for and be better prepared for the future itself. This is the example for pricing. But as I mentioned initially, we also had promotion as one of the key takeaways. So what we try to really understand is, okay, we saw there's promotion, and this promotion generated an uplift. Can you press an, so we see that there's an uplift, but we really need to understand the quality of this promotion uplift. So let's imagine that we have a newspaper that is distributed to 4 different households, and these 4 different households will have a different behavior to that information. In essence, the behavior will be the same because they will buy the product, but the reasoning behind it is different. So the first user is someone that never bought the category, but sees a good opportunity. So I see, oh, I buy this drinking yogurt and get 1 or 2 free. Let's see something like this. That person will say, oh, I never bought this. I want to give it a try. I will buy for it because I think that this is a good offering, so I will buy it. So that means there is someone new to the category. So that means category expansion altogether. But there's, of course, a second person that has a different part. So normally buys drinking yogurt, but not from FrieslandCampina brand, but sees this opportunity and thinks, oh, I really want to give it a try, so I will do it. That means competitors switch. Those 2 things, you see them here in green, they are positive for FrieslandCampina. But there's elements that are not so positive for FrieslandCampina of the promotion itself. It could be that is the third user or third reader is someone that normally buys a product, maybe probably even the same product but in a different pack size, but wants to take advantage of this opportunity and goes for it. So that means there's some cannibalization on FrieslandCampina products. That's not so positive than the rest. Of course, they still buy a product, so that's positive, but at the expense of other products from the portfolio. And there's also the fourth user. There is someone that normally buys this product, but he will take the advantage of this offering and buy more quantity and stock up. So what we do, and you saw the example of probably the model, but we really try to understand, okay, why is he telling this story? For the case of promotion, we really try to understand what is the quality and what is this doing to my business. And also, is it by creating new users to our portfolio or not? That's really what we try to understand. So we don't stick only with the data, but we stick about what the data tells us and how can we shape ourselves and be prepared for the future. Other feature that is here is media, but now Stefan will tell you a little bit more about it.
Great, but before we dive into media, I'm first of all curious who knows the latest FrieslandCampina commercial that was running. Let's see if I can launch the poll then again. Start. And there might be a hint in the question mark that's displayed over here, not in the actual question mark, but in the color of the question mark. No, not yet. And I don't know if you're able to change your answer, but if I show you this picture, does that? I think you're able to change your answer then. If I show you this picture, does that ring a bell already? Still not. I see some people switching. And if I show you this one, then you know it, of course. It's all good and life gives you chocomel. This is the latest FrieslandCampina commercial that was running. And what you already see over here is that the same type of media triggers people in different ways. But let's dive into how we can understand that. So imagine when you saw this commercial for the first time compared to when you see it for the 20th time. The amount of money that we need to spend is similar, but the effect on you is different. So the amount of people that you have reached of your target audience, that is indicated by the saturation curve. And how long you will remember that advertisement, that is indicated by the decay curve. Then imagine, for example, when you want to buy a car. You often make this business decision in a couple of months. So all the advertisements that you will see within those months, you will take into account. With our products, these are often bought in a split second. So our timing has to be right. Then we have the third component, and that is the quality of our message. Because you want to trigger people, either surprisingly or that they get positive emotions from you. But what you really want to avoid is that you associate your brand with something negative. And I think this is maybe the most important one to get right, but also the hardest one to quantify. But the combination of these three, that is what indicates your media effectiveness. And if we go back to the Chocomel commercial, then you saw that some people responded initially, they recognized it, and that was a combination between the saturation curve and the decay curve. Because some people might have seen the commercial, but don't remember it anymore. And then if you're going to ask you now, what do you remember from the commercial? Then people will say different things. And that is to do with the decay curve and with the message. Because the quality of the message relates to which memory structures you will build. But how does this result into an uplift in our sales? What we see over here are our media spend with the orange line, so the lower line. And then within a week, when the campaign was running, we also saw an uplift in our sales. That's what you expect, right? But also in the weeks thereafter, we still see an uplift in our sales compared to our baseline. So all these sales can be related to that one campaign that we did in a specific week. So if we want to calculate return on investment then we can divide the sales value uplift by the cost of the media. So that is how we determine return on investment, and we can do that for different media channels. So what you see over here is initially we have the media spend, we have split it up into channel level. So we have it for TV, digital, radio, and out of home. And if we calculate the return on investment, you will see for each euro that we spend in a channel, how much sales value do we get in return. And you would say over here that out of home, you would probably want to reduce your spends over there, because for each euro that you invest, you only get 70 euro cent in return. But for digital, that is the one that you want to focus on. This already gives some hints where you need to tailor your media strategy towards. But if you have your media spends on a sub-channel level available, then you can also calculate return on investment for the different sub-channels within digital, for example, for YouTube or for TikTok. And what you clearly see over here is that you really want to double down on YouTube, because for each euro you get $3.90 in return, and probably you want to avoid or reduce your spend in TikTok. So what you see over here is that you can really, that the data granularity of your media spends is strongly linked to the quality of your insights. Now back to Rui, how we can use marketing mix modeling to optimize our media spends.
Thanks, Stefan. So if we go back to our model, so we saw one of the factors that we tried to understand is, okay, what is the general media uplift? And of course, we try to see how much is the return of investment of each one of the different components of media. But of course, that part already Stefan highlighted to you. So what we will focus now is, okay, how can we optimize this? So how can we learn about our return of investment and our investment over time to do better than that? It's possible. So if we go to the saturation curve that Stefan was highlighting, what we know is that we spend, there's a media uplift to it. But we know that at a specific point of time, we will not reach new buyers because they are already converted or not, but at least you will not get that. So this is where the linear of the return on investment comes. If we are too close to these saturation levels, means that you need to spend more to be able to generate higher uplifts, which is then where you need to make the balance between the information that Stefan gave you, the reach that we want to make as a brand, and the level of investment that we need to make this happen. So on this example, what we have is, if we look to the spends over time, what we can see here is that there were at least 5 points that we were 3 of them above this saturation level and 2 or 3 quite close to it. If we would have optimized our spends there, would be probably our cost will be lower, and at the same time the return will still be quite similar to what was before, because the media uplift is not changing much because we are very close to that saturation level. So either we don't do that spend, or we could use it in other off-air rations over time, so we continue refreshing memory structures from the users. That's the principle that we apply. So we try to see what is the impact, if media has an impact or not, which channel has the highest impact, but also there we can still do more. And that's what we do. And this helps us then to plan our media media investments for the future. But also, what we want in this case is that this is not possible. So we had already situations that we have a model. This, of course, is not this same model, but this is just to give you the concept that we were not able to reach the saturation level because we never invested too high in that specific channel. So of course here there's different scenarios. So what we then try to do is based on our historical knowledge, based on our experience and also market experience, we create different scenarios. Because what could be is that okay, we didn't reach that saturation level. Is it starting already now? So pessimistic scenario. Is it going even further up in the time? That of course we do with knowledge, testing, and making sure that we make the right decision for the future. So we gave you initially the example that okay, we know what we invest, we know the saturation, and we can tailor it. But there's cases that we still don't reach there. So of course there we need to do further investigation and work with the agencies in order to make the best decision based on the information that we have. And now Stefan will wrap up this part, and of course then you will have time for questions, and we can deep dive on these elements in more detail.
Yeah, so now you may be curious how you can kickstart your own marketing mix modeling journey. And as we have seen, you first need to start with understand your consumers. Once you know that, then you can see which factors you can influence to influence them their behavior. And then you are ready to kickstart your marketing mix modeling journey. Then you need to start with the data collection. So collect all the puzzle pieces that we have spoken about, set up your model and do your model development. And once you have done this, then for the business, most of the time, the most interesting part arrives, that is gaining the insights out of your model. And this really allows you to evaluate your past and to set yourself up for the future. And this is how marketing mix modeling will help you to win in any market. Thank you. Any questions? I think you can put the questions in the chat, I guess.
We wait a little bit. Yeah, okay, yes. How long did it take for data intake to go live of the model? So yeah, it depends of we needed to have back data. So normally we try to have models that have as more data as possible. So of course, if we didn't have data back then we need to wait at least 1 year to be able to have the right level of data. But normally we can turn around if we have the data in place. We can turn around in maximum 1 month and have a model ready. But of course, we try to make this scalable, so we have our own pipelines already settled. So the initial models didn't took 1 month; they took a little bit more. But nowadays we do it quite fast, I would say. I don't know, Stefan, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think that's a very good estimation. And I think it also really depends on the business question that we really want to answer, because we can do marketing mix modeling on different levels. So most of the time you just start on the category level. So then you can really see the category dynamics, what is the most important drive for the entire category. And then we can also go a level deeper, for example, to certain pack sizes or to certain SKUs. So based on the category model, we can make multiple models based on the needs, what the business wants to solve and where they want to gain insights in. But I think indeed the first models will take a couple of weeks, and then the iteration thereafter, that depends a bit on where you want to zoom into.
I hope this answers your question. Yeah, thanks.
We showed this return investment per sub-channel based on which factor did you decide which channel had the higher return investment than others.
Do you ask, should I answer? I can answer. Yeah, no. So what we do is we know how much we spend for each one of the channels. We know also what is the level of when they were on air. So what our model does is we collect the information from every different channels, and when it's on live itself, and by knowing the cost, then we apply that ratio. That's why we know how much uplift something generated. Of course, it's important for us to have the right frequency across these ones, because of course, if everything is the same, so let's imagine we go all the time with the same level of investment for every week across every channel, it's very hard for us to dissect where it goes each one of them. But normally we have different frequencies, so we can estimate based on the cost that we made how much was the impact of that into our volume itself.
Exactly. Maybe to add on that, what if you have your media spend available on sub-channel level, then you will include these features for all the sub-channels. So you can test each feature of each sub-channel in your model. And in case it is significant, then it can be included in your model. Then you're also able to determine a return on investment for that specific sub-channel. Does that answer your question? Great. Any other questions? From Joost, you've used to build your model, if I conclude correctly. Did you consider other models? Yeah, we are currently also exploring other models, and we are exploring, for example, the regularized expression that is based on top of the linear model, but it accounts a bit for overfitting. It accounts better for overfitting. So we also look into that. But from our understanding as well, or our experience is, if you use a more advanced model, it also becomes harder to explain what you're actually doing. And in case you're using a simpler model, then people can relate it better, and therefore also understand better why this comes out of the model. So I would always try to search for the optimum, having the best model out there, and also to be able to explain it. Any other questions?
Maybe we should have created more slides to have more information. Now, we were wondering how many questions were coming. And of course, let us know if you want us to go to a specific slide to explain you a little bit more in detail what we meant. Also happy to do so. So let us know.
And in case you have questions thereafter, you can always contact us via LinkedIn, of course. That is also no problem. And I would say if there are no questions anymore.
Exactly. Then maybe we go for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. We still have 20 extra minutes for lunch then. Thanks for attending, and if you have any questions, feel free to add us on LinkedIn or send us an email. More than fine. Thank you.
Thank you.